So I want to talk a little bit about AI. Specifically, I want to talk about generative AI. The thing where you enter in your prompts, maybe a picture to go along with it, or for pictures or videos, whatever generative AI thing you're using. Because, warning, my viewpoint on this is not very popular. It is not very popular. That being said, I get it. I get it. Because artists are high. So, my little girl over here, my little barn cat girl, who lost her collar somewhere. Anyway, another wave, another ocean. Anyway, I get it. For lack of a better term, artists right now are disgruntled workers. And I'm not saying that as an insult or to be attacking or anything like that because I get it. It's frustrating. It's frustrating when you put so much effort and time into your craft that and then only to have a computer program. It's not really AI as, science fiction would. God damn it. My symmetry is terrible. It's not really AI, artificial intelligence, as in like science fiction artificial intelligence. It's not that. It's just an algorithm. Like these AI chatbots. Like we had those actually when I was a kid. I mean, they were more primitive versions of it, but we had those. And it's really the same thing. It's just a much more advanced algorithm now. Anyway, and that's the same thing as the generative AI and all other forms of AI too. They're algorithms. They're not really artificial intelligence. They're algorithms. Anyway, but I get it. It's harder for you to get work because algorithms are coming in and doing it in an instant for free in some cases. In other cases, for a subscription fee. And then businesses are just using AI generators instead of hiring an actual artist to produce their logo or their advertisement or whatever. And, it's kind of in that aspect, I'm going to take more of a neutral position just because, I do get it, but in a sense, it's kind of the lesson of John Henry, or at least the real lesson of John Henry, the one that a lot of people don't really talk about, which is that, yes, John Henry kept up with the machines. He basically tied the machines, and then he died, and nothing changed. You know, he gave his life to fighting the industrial revolution and he gave his life fighting the industrial revolution to protect his and his friends' jobs only to have nothing change. The machine still took over. The steam engine was still built. The what do you call it? The till or whatever was still out there cropping the fields. And this is the thing: AI is generative AI and AI in general. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. Even if we ban it, then other countries are going to take advantage of that and they're going to continue using it and use it for whatever nefarious reasons. And we're going to end up coming to regret it because we're not going to be able to keep up. This happened again in the Industrial Revolution with the Romanovs. And what happened with the Romanovs was they went as far as to ban inventions and things that came from the Industrial Revolution. And then they started losing their wars. because they couldn't compete out on the battlefield anymore. And once they started losing their wars, they started losing the support of their people. I mean, the Romanovs had a mixed thing of support depending on who was czar at what time anyway, but they really lost the support of the people, you know, after that. Alexander II tried to fix things to an extent, building a parliament and establishing worker rights and a whole bunch of things. But then he got killed by suicide bombers, and everything went right back. And then within a few generations, here comes Lenin and the Bolsheviks, and no more Romanovs. Killed in a dank basement, and Russia has, even through the Soviet Union, has never been the dynasty that it was under the Romanovs. But I'm just saying, failing to keep up and adapt to the new technology cost the Romanovs everything. Their rule, their government, and even their very lives. So, and the same to not as an extreme extent, but, a whole bunch of DJs, was it, 20, 30, whatever years ago now, when, all of these DJs started freaking out because I guess it was Serato started putting a sync button on their CDJs. And everybody was like, oh, that's cheating. That's going to do the mixing for them. All it really did was actually just match the tempos between the two decks. But, and those DJs failed to adapt, and they, got left behind. The same thing happened when CDJs were introduced, and vinyl DJs that refused to keep up or refused to adapt couldn't keep up. And the same when we moved from CDJs to computer DJing. And, I mean, that's a little less true. That's a little more nuanced in that example. But, you get where I'm going with that. Sometimes, the better thing to do is to adapt. And it's hard. So, I can remain neutral for that. The real problem is that when I talk about being disgruntled workers, and you start taking it out on people who just use AI for fun or generative AI for fun, and you're, accusing us, because I use generative AI sometimes for fun, but then you start accusing us of cheating and saying, oh, that's even worse. You're stealing just for fun and, destroying lives just for nothing, and it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because I'm not going to pay you to draw a picture of me in a sailor's outfit, for just completely random example, just so I can have something funny to post on my Facebook. I'm not going to pay you for that. So why can't I use generative AI just for that little bit of fun? I'm not hurting nobody for that shit. And before you go and say, oh, but all the water used by these data centers to generate the electricity and blah, 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 that's not just for generative AI. That's for a whole bunch of different AI, some of those AI algorithms are actually for very good things, and sometimes for very not necessarily life-saving things, but good things, helpful things in the music industry, in the filming industry. And, of course, none of y'all ever take it out on some of these memes pages like the, Celine 95 or whatever, pages and stuff like that. They use generative AI all the time, and nobody bats an eye about that. But that's another wave in another ocean. I'm just saying, lighten the fuck up. Lighten the fuck up about that. Because, these data centers aren't using all of that electricity just on generative AI. videos or photos. You know, they're also using that for AI programs that diagnose illnesses and diseases and tumors and, sometimes nefarious things too, like facial recognition, mass surveillance programs, things like that. But then also some things like that have helped me personally, and I'm one person who I'm not even going to name because it's almost trivial, but who's been on Facebook a lot, criticizing AI and saying I won't do this or that for have anything to do if they're using AI, and that person uses Resolve the same as I do, for video editing, which is packed full of AI features. So they're using AI every time they open Resolve. And I used it in Studio One. And I also used it in Ozone. The virtual assistant in Ozone, even though they haven't always called it AI, it's the same thing, the virtual assistant feature. And what the virtual assistant feature basically does is you play the loudest clip of whatever music or audio you're producing, and then it listens to that little clip, and then it goes in and it automatically, through the algorithm, tries to master the track for you. Now, it's not perfect, and it shouldn't be, but what it does is it gets you to a point that you can tweak, you can get to the tweaking process faster. So then you let the virtual assistant do its job, and then you go in there, you start tweaking it to your liking and everything, and it just helps you get to the end process faster. And the same thing in is it Easy Drummer 3 with the virtual bandmate feature? Same thing. It listens to your music and then creates a drum track based both on your tempo map and the music that it scans over with the algorithm. And then it creates you a drum track, and then you could go in and you edit the drum track to your liking. Again, it's even when it's not called AI, it's the same thing. That's exactly what it is. So when you talk about this stuff, you really need to be more specific and say generative AI, because AI in general covers a whole lot of grounds, and we can't be mad at all forms of AI, because some of these forms of AI are life-saving. Some of them are really helpful within certain industries, and generative AI is fun from a non-business perspective. So if you're mad at generative AI for business reasons, I get it. And, I will totally, I'm going to sort of give you a pass regardless, because the issue to me is somewhat trivial. However, when it comes to the fun stuff, but when it comes to, AI, generative AI, taking work from artists and, blah, blah, blah. And I'll talk about the, copying styles of artists and things like that to build their models too. But, I'm just saying, I'll give you a big pass on that because I get it. It's hard, it's frustrating when an algorithm takes all the work. I can empathize with that as a former DJ, as a former mobile DJ, with not an algorithm, but people that would charge, a few $100s, sometimes charge my rate of $500 or $600. Well, for wedding, that was my wedding rate. That was my most expensive. But, regardless, would, charge my same rates to go somewhere and run a playlist off of their laptop or their iPod, back in the day it was iPods. Nobody's using iPods anymore except for hipsters or whatever. But I regress. You know, charge the same amount, and then the people that hire them would see that and think, I just paid them $500 or whatever, and they're sitting at the bar the whole night. Next time I'm just going to make a playlist myself. So they don't get to even see what real DJs can do at a mobile event because, DJing is so much more than playing music, or at least being a good DJ is so much more than just playing the music. It's reading the floor, knowing what to play, when to play it, recognizing when a song isn't working and driving people off of the floor and working toward a non-jarring way of getting away from that and coming back into something that, that your audience obviously wants to hear. But when you're talking about, you know, a generative AI basing their models off of other people's styles, this is going to be a bitter pill to swallow. But this is done in art all the time, even by humans, artists. Sometimes you take somebody else's style and you sort of blueprint it. As a music video artist, I've done this, and take somebody else's style because nobody owns a style, and you sort of use it as a blueprint and then make it your own. And there's really nothing wrong with that. Benjamin Franklin famously refused to patent his inventions, saying that he didn't feel like one person should get to stifle and stop other people from using their inventions as inspiration to work on and improve and move forward, And so Ben Franklin never patented, well, he patented one of his inventions, which was the leaf, the leaf mold for printing currency. And the only reason he patented that one was just to thwart counterfeiters. But every other one of his inventions, he never patented anything purposely because he wanted other people to be able to take his inventions, improve upon them, and create their own inventions, use them as inspirations and building blocks. And, whether it's an algorithm or a human being doing it, it's the same in concept. And I know that's a bitter pill to swallow, but my point in all of this is that an individual using AI for fun is not hurting anybody. So get off of our fucking backs. And as far as artists struggling for work, because not everybody, but a bunch of places are opting for generative AI instead of hiring artists, I get it. I empathize with you. But again, hard pill to swallow, you're going to have to adapt. AI's, it's not going anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. Good, bad, whatever, AI is not going anywhere, and you're going to have to adapt. But I get it. I do get it, and I do empathize with you. And also, on a side note, I'm not calling out Facebook pages or people that comment or, whatever. I'm not doing all that. But I am going to say, if you comment to my comment on Facebook or anywhere else or in a real life discussion, and you come at me with, well, we'll just say negative energies, automatically throwing insults and things like that, don't get all pissed off when I start throwing your energy right back fucking at you. Don't get mad about that shit, because I walk the wheel. I walk the wheel. And the energy that you give me is the energy that you're going to get back. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You come at me with respect and civility, and I'm going to come back at you with respect and civility, and we can have a grown-ass motherfucking discussion. Otherwise, I'm going to tell you to take that shit out. I'm sorry. Take that stick out your motherfucking ass, eat shit, and fuck off. I'm just saying. Your mom. Anyway, again, but I get it. When you're upset because AI is taking your job, they took her gerbs. I'm sorry for that joke, but if you're disgruntled because you're finding difficulty getting work because of generative AI, I get it. I get it. I empathize. I encourage you to adapt. Or look for ways to adapt, because I understand too, it's easier said than done, and not everybody is super creative about finding ways to adapt, and whatever. Anyway, I'm going to stop this video right here. This is, I think, maybe part 4 or 5. I've lost count of the Tommy G Goes Full Frame series. In case, you're picking this up randomly, because I understand, keywords and stuff, you might have pulled this up, whatever. But thanks for hanging out. We're going to film probably one more for this series. Even though I haven't done extensive testing on this camera and everything, just so we can kind of but I think I'm about to film the wrap up to all of this next, just so that we can kind of get on and move on and, film some other things. If you want to see extensive testing and reviews and stuff for this camera, there's a ton of them on here. There's a ton of shill videos. There's more shill videos for this camera than there's not. But, I am going to give my opinions, if they really count for anything. Again, not extensive testing. But, that's going to be our wrap-up video for this series next. So, yeah, anyway, thank you for coming and hanging out, and I guess sticking around till the end. I love you. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.